So, for this week's media assignment of class oppression in America, I chose to look at Jordan Peele's movie Us and its reference to classism. I've added a trailer on the next page if someone would like to watch it.
That's a classic right there.
What does I got five on it mean?
It's about drugs.
It's not about drugs. It's a dope song. Don't do drugs.
Get in rhythm. There you go. There you go. Can't believe how big they've got.
Did you hear Gabe got a boat?
He's kidding, right?
He's not kidding.
Hey, I think it's vodka o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
Where's Jason?
Jason?
Where were you? I didn't know if you were lost. Stick with me, and I'll keep you safe.
There's a family in our driveway.
It's probably the neighbors. But y'all scared of a family? Hi, can I help you?
Zora, put your shoes on.
If you want to get crazy, we can get crazy. What are you people?
It's us.
They look exactly like us. They think like us. They know where we are. We need to move and keep moving. They won't stop until they kill us. Or we kill them. Be careful.
So, the movie Us by Jordan Peele is a cinematic portrayal of classism and inequality in America, and the story kind of moves between two of the main sets of characters, the tethered people and the above people. So the tethered people are these shadows of these more privileged counterparts, forced to live out the actions and will of the privileged, and the only thing preventing them from moving up is symbolized by this fast-moving downward escalator, and this symbolizes how moving up is easy when you're privileged, and showing how the inverse can trap you and keep you trapped. Now, the shadows being called the tethered people is one of many references to being stuck in a broken system where you are unseen, invisible, with no opportunity to fix this. And it kind of hints towards generational poverty and the inability to get out of it once you're in it. Words like restraint, leash, and chain are used frequently throughout the movie, all of which are synonyms for the word tethered, making deeper parallels to the prison industrial complex where the tethered people live. And this is also seen in the jumpsuits worn by the tethered people and also the lack of ability to make decisions for themselves. And one of the articles I referenced by Blackshaw and Wells, they reported that many incarcerated Americans don't have the opportunity to vote, and they too are relying on the actions of those people who are privileged to do what's right for them, which rarely happens. And when asked who they are, they respond initially with "we are Americans," as if this is their entire identity and somehow validates the belief that they consider themselves equally worthy of the prosperity of the above people. The tethered refer to themselves as human beings genetically, only they've been handed unfortunate circumstances, which makes reference to the reality of institutional and systemic issues being the cause and not the individuals themselves. So this act of mimicking is also an important aspect, and the tethered copy and do everything the ones above do without any actual payoff. And this again references the American obsession with consumerism without the means to keep up with the Joneses. And these exploitive structures are obviously in the tethered's puppet-like oppression of this upper world double, indicating the underprivileged subordination to the actions of the prosperous. And this world of us shows that decline comes as easy as stepping on an escalator. However, the only way up from this mind-numbing deprivation is somewhat of a hostile acquisition. The husband in the movie, Greg, he represents this kind of middle-class privilege, and we see this frequently throughout the movie in his college-branded t-shirt and sweatshirt, his obsession with things, and consumerism, and his out of touch with reality dialogue. The character represents this middle-class privilege view that's held by most as being blind to the real issues and causes of them, because they're not directly affected by them. And his character continues to compete with his neighbours, new cars, new boats, etc., when he clearly can't afford to do so, and there is no real point in doing so. And it just kind of portrays him as this kind of fake person. In contrast, his wife came from somewhat of an impoverished background and has this internalized kind of class shame and constant dread of being judged, not for who you are or what kind of good person you are, but where you came from. And it becomes clear that she's very uncomfortable in this world of having whatever she needs, creating this kind of imposter syndrome, which I feel is something felt by a lot of Americans who are kind of trying to stay afloat in a way that they can't afford, sinking further into debt, being forced by society to kind of behave, perform, and succeed in a certain way that Americans deem successful and acceptable. So rather than reinforce stereotypes and misconceptions. So the killing of the appointed leader of the tethered undermines their justified uprising, effectively becoming a sustainer of the system responsible for the inhumane experiment that created them, whilst also deconstructing the tale of this class mobility. The prominently placed quote from Jeremiah 11:11 applies to the treatment of the tethered people, and I have the quote on there. The quote emphasizes the public lack of accountability, the referencing of them being the lower class and impoverished people, implying that they're treated as invisible. And if we ignore the issue, then we can carry on with our lives and not let it concern us. And this echoes this American view of each person being to blame for the circumstances. There are many, many symbolic moments within the movie, some of which were referencing redlining, where you see the family all stood together, hands across America, and those were intentional in calling out classism. And the hands across America reference turns the emblem of this human union into more of a metaphor for the erasure of that social division. And these things alone highlighted the restrictions imposed on those deemed lower class and the refusal of the upper class to assist. This emphasized the old age American belief that people are responsible for their own demise and problems and that there is nobody else to blame. Making this a personal flaw or defect removes the blame from the government institutions that are actually continuously causing, contributing to, and worsening these issues. A large part of the movie was referencing generational poverty. So in the movie, there's several important topics, including generational poverty, disadvantages faced by those affected. The tethered children seem to have no ability to speak or limited speech, behavior issues, violence and aggression, and an inability to basically function. And this is in contrast to the higher education level that the children from the above people have. The most important social services in the US are provided by local governments that perceive revenue from real estate taxes. So due to the fact that taxable wealth varies primarily based on income, richer regions are able to provide higher quality services. School financing suggests that instead of equalizing the differences as the state is supposed to, they're kind of reinforcing them. So clearly the lives they lead are shaped by the circumstances into which they're born. And this is evident in the movie also. That comparison goes throughout the movie. Children who grow up in these circumstances usually live in school districts with fewer resources, learn from teachers with less experience, and have limited access to learning tools. And as a result, the next generation becomes trapped in this poverty cycle that they usually really struggle to get out of. One of the articles that I referenced, Pete, it's evident within that themes such as these are kind of reminiscent of Marxism, with referencing comparisons to how the wealthy would reap the benefits and become more wealthy, while those who lived off of their labor would be reduced to subsistence. As a result, workers are not able to benefit from capital accumulation and productivity increases. So if you look at how social workers can kind of trying to counteract these stereotypes, social work professions kind of guided through and shaped by their ethics. So they provide a value-based framework for social workers to practice. The NASW's Code of Ethics provides guidance on how to address and help people affected by poverty and class oppression, and how we can alleviate this social problem. And according to those ethics, every person has the right to be treated with respect and dignity, and all human rights must be respected. And in addition, social workers are responsible for ensuring that unjust policies and practices and social conditions contributing to economic inequalities are challenged and abolished, making sure that these who are in need receive the resources first, and that the resources are distributed fairly, and that is a huge part of this process. So as social workers, we're employed within a very prejudiced system built on white supremacy, and we can address the internal issues within policies and practices that we have access to for us to rebalance the power or attempt to. And clients we treat will likely have differing socioeconomic statuses from us, so checking our internal biases is extremely important. We could utilize cultural competencies, access cultural humility to keep track of our own thoughts, feelings, and statuses, which may be influencing our decisions or impacting how we advise our clients and treat them. Social workers often use risk assessments to help clients, and being able to tailor those to better serve the client is imperative. This allows us to help individuals and communities understand that what their circumstances are, and how to change their behavior or the environment around them. And this kind of allows them to develop the ability to and resources to influence and create this positive change on their own. Social workers must also recognize that the importance of integrating theory about professional values that respect people and their choices and decisions, and enhancing resources and opportunities as well as the client's personal capacities. So as individuals emerge from poverty, so do the communities, which results in this mutually kind of reinforcing relationship. To eradicate poverty effectively, a comprehensive and very much integrated model has to address social and economic exclusion and social disintegration. Addressing the racial disparities in policy and advocating for change is going to be a huge part of that. Now, counselors, therapists, social workers have this ethical responsibility to have an awareness of their own personal values and to avoid imposing these on clients. And lastly, the employers currently do not acknowledge class in things like diversity assessments. Yet this can be something that severely impacts the work experience for some workers. So maybe adding this to employment-based assessments could help draw attention to differences and give us the ability to repair them using research.